Hi, everybody. If we could please open the meeting with the Serenity Prayer. God,
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I will, not mine.
I will, not mine be done.
and welcome to the Monday night Zoom meeting of Overeaters Anonymous. My name is Maria F. and I'm a recovered compulsive overeater, and I'm from County Dublin in Ireland, and you're all so welcome. If you have any questions or concerns during the meeting, please contact either myself or any of the co-hosts, and you can do this by private message in the chat function. And we ask if you can please just keep an eye on your microphone at all times during the meeting, and if you can just stay on mute. And if you need to step away from your computer for any reason, just please disconnect your camera, because it could be disturbing to other members when they're here. And we're now going to read the preamble, and we're going to read the following readings taken from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the preamble: Overeaters Anonymous is a fellowship of individuals who, through shared experience, strength, and hope, are recovering from compulsive overeating and compulsive food behaviours. We welcome everyone who wants to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for OA members. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, neither soliciting nor accepting outside donations. OA is not affiliated with any public or private organisation, political movement, ideology, or religious doctrine. We take no position on outside issues. Our primary purpose is to abstain from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviours, and to carry the message of recovery through the 12 steps of OA to those who still suffer. We're going to have the following readings: how it works, the 12 steps, more about compulsive overeating, the 12 traditions, and a vision for you. And Lavinia is going to kindly read how it works for us.
Hi everyone, Lavinia here, compulsive overeater, covered for today. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with food, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery.
Thanks, Lavinia. And now could Monica please read the 12 steps for us? Hi, Monica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Monica, compulsive eater. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over food, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to compulsive eaters and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description to the compulsive eater, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we were compulsive eaters and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our compulsive eating. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. Thanks, Maria.
Thanks, Monica. And next we have more about compulsive overeating, and Geraldine's going to read that for us. Hi, Geraldine.
Hi, Maria. Hi, everyone. My name is Geraldine. I'm a recovered compulsive overeater. More about alcoholism. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real compulsive overeaters. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our eating careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could eat like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his eating is the great obsession of every abnormal eater. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were compulsive overeaters. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. We compulsive overeaters are men and women who have lost the ability to control our eating. We know that no real compulsive overeater ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that compulsive overeaters of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make compulsive overeaters of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with compulsive overeating agree there is no such thing as making a normal eater out of a compulsive overeater. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet.
Thanks so much, Geraldine. And Mark is going to read Tradition 6. Thanks, Mark.
Hi, my name is Mark and I'm a compulsive overeater. Tradition 6. An OA group ought never endorse, finance or lend the OA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property and prestige divert us from our primary purpose.
Thanks, Mark. And a vision for you will be read by Margaret. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Maria. Hi, everybody. I'm Margaret and a compulsive overeater. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thanks, Maria.
Thanks so much, Margaret. And we are absolutely delighted this evening to welcome Ruth M to the meeting. Ruth is going to share on entire abstinence. She'll share for 25 minutes, and then there'll be time after that. If you have a question for Ruth, please stay back and ask a question, or there'll be also time to share. So welcome to you, Ruth.
Well, thank you for the invitation. This is the first time I've talked to people in Ireland, unless you were in the U.S. sitting at a convention I was at or something. But anyway, thank you for the offer. I am a compulsive eater. I've been abstinent since November 15th, 1986, and lost weight and kept it off in 34 years. I am a big book thumper, and so I'm going to come from what the big book says about entire abstinence. I will give credit to Joe and Charlie. These were two alcoholics I met in 1986 at a weekend retreat, and I left that event understanding the big book, because I came in 82, and I understood it, and I've been absent since 86. So I always want to give credit to where credit's due. The big book and to the two men that have since died. Anyway, the idea of entire abstinence. Well, I will go to doctor's opinion in the big book. I don't know how many people on the line are big book thumpers, but if we go to doctor's opinion and we go to XXVII, I guess that would be 28 in Roman numerals, at the very end of that page, there's a paragraph there that describes the vicious circle. Are we in this circle? And if so, then we'll have to have entire abstinence. Are we this or not? And the paragraph reads, men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. I used to think I liked the food. I didn't. I liked the effect. The cessation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they succumb to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful, with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of his recovery. So, if we could imagine the old-fashioned clocks or watches, I know they're getting out of date, but if we look at that, and we look at 9 o'clock, we're going to go counterclockwise. If we look at this paragraph, the first thing that happens that starts us in trouble is when we take that first bite, right? That's when it all begins. So at 9 o'clock, we're going to have what's called a physical allergy, and that just means abnormal reaction to. I used to have a neighbor who was allergic to seafood, and if he ate seafood, his throat swelled shut and he died unless he was rushed to the hospital and given an injection within 20 minutes. So he never ate seafood. He was not a compulsive eater. Well, I have an addiction, but what am I addicted to exactly? What is entire abstinence from? But the main point here at 9 o'clock, we'll just say physical allergy. You've taken that bite and you've got an allergic reaction. You're reacting in a way that's not like normal people. And at 8:30, you would write craving, phenomena of craving, so that you have an abnormal reaction, and the result of that is craving. This is the body. It's a physical allergy. Thus, craving comes from the body. The body has to have more. This is not even the mind yet. The body has to have it. The body cannot stop once it starts, or when it swears off, it can't keep its word, all right? The body has to have it. So then what happens at 8 o'clock, it says here spree. In a way, we usually say binge. So you can write binge there if you're writing this along. And you say, hey, I didn't do it till the next day. Well, okay, I don't know. Here we had a snowstorm. You would have killed somebody if you'd gotten out in the car to get to the grocery store, which was probably closed anyway. So don't applaud yourself because you waited till the next morning. The bottom line is the body has an abnormal reaction causing craving, and you ultimately will eat in a way that you cannot stop when you start. Well, you've done that. So what's the next thing this paragraph says? Well, you emerge remorseful, swearing off, I'll never do that again. How many of us have done that? I did it hundreds of times. I'll never do it again. I can't believe I did it. I mean, what in the world was going on? So at 7 o'clock, you're remorseful. You swear off, okay? But your body still wants it. And so when you hit bottom, you're at 6 o'clock. And 6 o'clock, you're restless, irritable, and discontented. Restless, anxiety, irritable, angry, discontented, dissatisfied with life. So that's where you are. And all you've got is this body that's demanding more. And the only thing you can deal with this body that wants more is your mind. And your mind's going to tell you to stop. But your mind isn't going to tell you to stop, because the second component of the disease is mental obsession. Dr. Silkworth says there are two components to the disease, the physical allergy and a craving, and a mental obsession. So you try to exert that will, but the will is the thing that got you to be a glutton. It got you to be an addict. That is, it's going to say no and it's going to say yes, but it is not going to keep you from stopping. So at 3 o'clock, you can write in mental obsession. And once you get that mental obsession at a certain point, you cannot, and back you go and complete that circle and go back to 9 o'clock and take that next bite. That's the vicious circle of compulsive eating. So you start off with a physical allergy, you have a craving, you binge, you emerge remorseful, you become restless, irritable, discontent, you have the mental obsession, because that's all the thing you can do to fight it, and you come back. And you go around the circle over and over again. And once you're in it, you will never, ever, 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 ever get out of the circle. That's what the big book lets you know. Once you're in, you're not out. You cannot come out on self-will, because self-will got you there. Self-will will not get you there. So, but the dangerous thing about this is that it's progressive, which means every time you go around that circle, you're not tracing the circle. You're going around in an abyss, going down, 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 until at the end of your life, if you live this long, you're just a black dot. You do nothing but eat and eat and eat. There's no way out of this circle. There is absolutely no way out unless you have to have a power greater than yourself. So Dr. Silkworth says, he's talking about the physical allergy and a craving. Later, Dr. Young will be talking about the mental obsession. But right now we're going to talk about the physical allergy and craving. He has to say there's one thing and only one way that we can get relief from this physical allergy and a craving. So let's go to that paragraph, and it's on XXX 30, Roman numeral. And it's the second to last paragraph on this page. And it says, all these and many others, and they're referring to the alcoholics they mentioned earlier in the page. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been by any treatment with which we are familiar permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. The only relief. There are no other options. So in step one, because this is part of step one in the big book, we must get entire abstinence. With that, we will no longer have a physical allergy. We will no longer have phenomenal craving. It's gone after you go through detox. My experience, 2 to 3 weeks, it's over, and you never have it again for the rest of your life. But you have the mental obsession. You got the next 11 steps to deal with that one. But today we're going to be talking about entire abstinence. So what is entire abstinence? All right, so you did actually read page 30. I was listening to you. And on here, it talks about the idea of control, which you don't have. Then you have an illusion. Illusion is you see two glasses, and one's short and stubby, and one's long and tall. And you think the short and stubby one has more water in it, but they actually have the same. Well, it's an illusion. You're not making out. Next paragraph says you're delusional, which you're seeing two glasses on the table, and they're not even there. You are insane. So if we go to page 44, we'll go to the 2 questions that ask if we're a compulsive eater, now that we see the vicious circle. And on that first paragraph, on the third sentence, 4th line, it says, this is the 2 questions you ask yourself. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. So it's saying, once we swear off and say we'll never do it again, we will not ever keep our word, and we cannot eat in moderation of any type. Cannot, because you say you're not going to do it a certain amount, but you can never keep your word. So what I do with people, I ask you to take out a piece of paper and just write down any and every food that you have controlled successfully, uncontrolled successfully, trying to control, anything about control. And what do I mean by that? If you've attempted control, you are out of control. For if you are not out of control, you don't attempt it because you're not out of control. So any and all foods, just write them down. Then get somebody that's recovered to go over that list with you and see what are the ingredients in those foods that keep popping up. That when you go to the food that you got and you get this craving, you have this craving you cannot stop, and you have to go ahead and eventually eat it. What ingredients are in the food that cause that to happen? There's got to be some commonality. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you've written down any and everything you can think of. And we'll just say, for the sake of argument, you've written down 33 things, okay? And so then the person will read the list to me, and I can kind of tell by listening to it what those ingredients are, but at least I'll know. Let's say it's 33. I can say, great. Okay, let's go back and see, because I heard you say things like added sugars, artificial sweeteners. I heard you see a lot about sweetness. You're going for sweetness. Let's see if there's anything to that, because I've already heard what you've been telling me. And so what happens is, because the tongue does not know the difference between artificial sweeteners and sugar, it's the tongue, the taste bud is called sweetness, and that's all it's going. Bingo, bingo, bingo. So when you put in something like that, added sugars, artificial sweeteners, it's getting excited. But it's getting excited in a way normal people don't. Not normal people, oh, it's sweetness. Okay, fine. I like that. No, we're getting jazzed up. We're ready. We're now. The person that's not an addict, the first bite is the fastest, and after that, they just slow down. For us, the first bite is the slowest, and then we're on a train going downhill with no brakes. It just speeds up, and we can't stop. So sweetness. So then the person goes through and reads the list, and lo and behold, 31 of the 33 things, it's got some added sugar or artificial sweeteners in it. So I say, well, gee, that makes you have 94% of the time you're picking sweetness. Is that ingredient a problem for you? You tell me, if it's on your paper. And hopefully they're honest enough to say, well, yeah, I guess so. I choose it almost every single time. Okay, fine. All right. So let's look at something else I may have heard, and I will just ask, all right. Let's say the person's eating a huge amount of processed food, and it's all high in salt. And we'll just go through. You've got some really high salty stuff. And the person says, okay, and they go through that list. And it ends up, it's true 21 times, which is 70%. Okay, great. Okay, it's not as much as sugar, but you're going to a bunch, right? Okay, and then maybe I might notice some really unhealthy fats that are in there. There's some fats are healthy, and we need to eat them. And surely enough, we need to eat small amounts of salt. That's required to keep our body alive. We don't need any sugar ever. But, let's see if that's in there. And then there might be something else. But my job is to help that person see what are the ingredients that always seem to be chasing after. You've got to get something very, very, very sweet. You're going to get another taste bud is salty. That's another taste bud. You seem to be registering on that taste bud. Wow. And then the fats. Okay. People, again, I can't speak for Ireland, but in the United States, if you go ahead and remove anything, if I walk in the grocery store today, at least 80% of everything in that grocery store I cannot touch, because I can't do added sugar or artificial sweeteners. Done. And it's in 80% or more, at least 80%. And then when you get into junk food, high processed food, the food industry in the United States has learned that if they can put actually those three things in it, if they can put added sugar, artificial sweeteners, they can put salts, added salts, and they can put certain kinds of fats in it, people will eat more of it, which means their profits are greater. And so that's just what they do. And it's about money, and it makes money. It makes a lot of money for them. The last time I read, which was years ago, $8 billion a year was spent on research and marketing those three products. So that tells me something. $8 billion. Wow. So I have to look at that. But then I've had people, and when they look at it, they go, I can't eat any processed food, because all the processed food here in the United States, 99% of the processed food in the United States has got one or more of those three things in. She goes, oh, I can't eat that. Okay, fine. We'll just say all processed food, fine. There might be something else. But the job is to find out what the ingredients are. Once you find out what the ingredients are, then you cannot eat those ingredients ever in any form, in any way, at any time. Done. It's over. There is nothing you can do, because it says entire abstinence. Entire means all the time, always. So alcoholics, when they said entire, they didn't just mean drinking alcohol. They also meant that they couldn't, have baked something up with alcohol and some vanilla extract or almond extract because it's made with alcohol. At least in the U.S. it's made. So can't do anything like that. They can't do any marinating some meat and then grilling it or baking it because it can't completely, guaranteed, come out in the cooking of it. Anything in which there was any trace amount also counted. It wasn't just drinking alcohol as we normally think of it. And when they said entire, that's what they referred to. In the early writings of AA, they did note that. There was guys that would even go try to drink hair tonic. Oof, gosh, because the guys put down their hair here in the U.S. in the 30s and 40s. So, but it means everything. And so that's what entire abstinence means. Find out what the ingredients are, but you can't do it by yourself. Because remember, self-will will not kill self-will. Self-will will never get rid of self-will. It will not. It will make sure it lives on. Maybe not consciously, but unconsciously it's still there. I remember I'd been absent about 2 years, and all of a sudden I was like eating, I can't remember, some sugar crap, and I go, oh my God, I can't believe it. And then I opened my eyes and I realized it was the middle of the night and I had been dreaming. It was so real. It was so real. I'd been eating compulsively, binge food. My ingredient was there. And I'm like, it took me a while to calm down and go back to sleep. So if that's in my unconscious and I have no control over it, because I can't control my dreams when I'm sleeping, it means it never dies. It dies. So it just goes like underground. It just means it's not conscious, but it's always there. Self-will won't kill itself. But we're going to do what the big book says. It says that we need entire abstinence. Once we do entire abstinence, we are out of the vicious circle. We are not in it anymore because we don't have a physical allergy, we don't have a craving, so thus we're not in it. So that's entire abstinence. Now, of course, we haven't dealt with mental obsession, and if the mental obsession will still get us to come back and start and get us back in the circle. But step one, what it's saying, we have to admit 100% with absolute perfection, because I tell you, if 99.9% of you is convinced you're a compulsive eater and 0.1% is not convinced, the 0.1% will eat again, because it's not convinced. This one has to be worked perfectly. And if we go and look on page 68 of AA's 12 and 12, it says that the step one has to be worked 100% with absolute perfection. It says it right there in the book, not the big book, but in the AA 12 and 12. So we must work this 100%. We must make this submission 100%. Doesn't matter if you don't like it. Who cares? I didn't like it, but I had to do it. Then when I've made that admission, I have accepted what is the problem. I have it, and something greater than me has to take over. Well, that's, of course, the power greater than myself. And that's in the chapter, There's a Solution. That's why they titled the chapter, There's a Solution. So then we deal with the mental obsession. And I want to close with a passage I really love, Step 10 Promises. A lot of people talk about the Step 9 promises, and they're great promises, but there are other great promises in the book. Step 3 promises, page 63. Step 4 promises, page 70. Step 5 promises, page 75. Anyway, this is the Step 10 promises. This is the book telling you, guaranteed, this is what's going to happen if you work the program exactly as the big book tells you to work it, that when you now get into Step 10, this will be your relationship with food. This is guaranteed. Last paragraph on page 84. And we've ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as if from hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude towards liquor has been given to us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Now, who doesn't want that promise? Those promises are there. They're guaranteed. I can tell you, I've been absent 34 years. I don't know when I stopped having the mental obsession. I didn't keep track. I don't know. I was talking to my sponsor at the time. We didn't know, but we knew by within the by the time we got to the end of year 2, for sure the obsession had stopped. So I don't know, but I'll just say 2 years. But think about it. For the 32 years, I haven't even thought to do the behavior. Now, if I don't think to do the behavior, I won't do the behavior. And if I don't do the behavior, well, then I have permanent abstinence. And the big book promises permanent abstinence. We just read it. We just read permanent sobriety. The promises of permanent sobriety, right there on the bottom of page 84. So it's all there in the book, and our job is just to follow it exactly as it tells us to do it. And if we do that, we will get what the big book promises us. So with that, I think I went a little short, about 20 minutes, but that's okay. I'll close and I'll give it back to Maria.
Thank you so much, Ruth. That was absolutely terrific. Thank you, Ruth. And if you have a question for Ruth or you want to share, please raise your hand underneath reactions. And the meeting, we've about 29 minutes for sharing. So please do raise your hand. And our first person is Clary.
Hi, Claire. Thanks so much, Ruth. Thank you, everyone, for your service and for this meeting. I'm sorry to jump in there, but I really wanted to ask you a question that I've come up against several times sponsoring now, and I'd really love your take on it. So I'm an alcoholic, so I don't drink. I've been sober for a long time, and I have in OA a number of sponsees who have wanted to continue drinking alcohol on a food plan. And I always say I don't have experience of that and they should go and speak to someone else, but they also say that they have sugar as an issue. And for me, I just cannot quite compute that alcohol and sugar are compatible in a safe way. But obviously I don't have the experience. What's your take on that? I'd really appreciate some input. That was question 1. And actually I'm going to do 2 questions while I'm at it, just tapping into your experience. I've also got other sponsees who say that no food is a problem for them and it's all about behaviour. And again, it's not my experience. I do struggle a little bit with that. Do you have experience of that? And what would your response be to that? Thank you.
Okay, right, thank you. So the first question is about alcohol. So the byproduct of making alcohol, there's sugar in it. There is no alcohol that doesn't have sugar. There's some that's sweeter than others, but there is sugar in it. So for me, if I'm entirely abstinent from added sugar, artificial sweeteners, then I do not consume alcohol. And I have not consumed any alcohol in 34 years because I'm not entirely abstinent if I don't. It's that simple. It can be just a trace amount in something. But if it's a trace amount, that's all it takes to keep the physical allergy going. As long as the physical allergy is going, we're going to go back. So when I sponsor people, no, they don't drink alcohol if they're entirely abstinent because the sugar is in it. When we talk about food, we're also talking about our drinks. Anything we drink counts, so whatever. And somebody just asked me, well, what do you drink? Well, water's really good. Water's good. I mean, it tastes great. It's fine. We don't have to have all this stuff in it because the stuff almost always has something added in it that makes it that I cannot drink it. So I just drink water. So the answer is no. It's got sugar in it. And then the second question was about behaviors. Well, there's some addictions like gambling, which is a behavior. There's some issues like alcohol, which is obviously a substance. And I think for food, it's probably both. There's both behaviors and substance. But very clearly, you're not going to be thinking with any clarity and any level of truth to deal with your addiction as long as you're under influence trying to deal with your addiction. So the first thing people have to do is get entire abstinence. And you can't believe how smart people become. Oh, they go through withdrawal and they're fuzzy thoughts and they've got headaches and they can't remember things. I understand that's that 2 to 3 weeks. But once you get past that, actually they can smart up pretty good. So we have to start in the logical progression. First, get entire abstinence. Once we get entire abstinence, then I'll cover behaviors with them. But I cannot cover behaviors with them while they're still behaving the substance in their body. That's not possible. So I just go in order. We start with the foods. We get that kind of cleaned up, depending how bad the withdrawal is, and then I'll talk to them about behaviors. But a lot of the behaviors will stop once they're entirely abstinent. For example, you know, you might not end up going to all those parties that you went to and you got there early so you could help put out the food and eat some food on the sly when nobody was looking at you in the kitchen. And then you stayed late, of course, to put the food away. And of course, you did the same thing then because you're not going to eat anything. You might find that it doesn't really excite you anymore. You find the friends that you thought that were such good friends, but they were just your binging buddies. The only reason you were with them was you ate compulsively. And now that you're not eating compulsively, you don't have anything to say to them. And they don't have anything to say to you because all you did was talk about food. Some of the behaviors will go away just as a consequence of being entirely abstinent. But it follows, not precedes, the entire abstinence. That's the way I work it.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Thanks so much, Claire. And I'd just like to point out that the Q&A is being recorded, so just people are aware of that, and we'll be posting the recording onto YouTube. And next we have Jen A in Colorado. Hi, Jen.
Hi, thanks so much, Maria, for the meeting. And Ruth, thanks for taking the time out today to speak to this group. I love the fact that you took us to the big book. I'm wondering, once you take us into the big book and you talk about the precise directions in the doctor's opinion, you know, where in the big book can you let everybody know where it talks about when we have that desire or that urge, where can we go and look and like, oh, I can just have one little bite, or I can have a this or a that. Can you share with us where you take your sponsees in the big book when they try to say, oh, but I can have a little of this or maybe a little of that? Thanks.
Yeah, well, I think just a great example is the page that we read earlier, more about alcoholism on page 30. And I just go to here and we look at, you know, that thing of control. You're saying you can control outcome. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that if you swear off, you'll never eat it again, you follow through? Are you saying that once you start, the amount you're going to eat, you always eat that amount and no more? Let's just see what your state is like. You think you can control. If you don't have any trouble with control, you're not one of us. And if you are one of us, you cannot control. And it lays it out here, control, and then the obsession, then it says illusion, and it says delusion, and later in the book it says you're insane. So sometimes we'll go through that whole thought process, if that's what they're saying. The other place is page 44, which I read, is to just go, they've made a commitment with me that they're not going to eat these ingredients. If they don't make that commitment, that's fine. Maybe somebody else can help you better. I'm not the answer for everybody. There's no question about that. But if you think you can eat trace amounts and still call it abstinent, alcoholics cannot say, well, I can just drink a glass of wine and I'm still sober. They'd be laughed out of the room, really. Come on now. So if somebody says, I can still eat a small amount of it, I can do moderation, and so I'm fine. Well, then you're not one of us. And I applaud you and go off and just eat to your merry content because you're not one of us. But if you think that you can get away with this and you're one of us, you will fail. And then you can come back and be more willing to be entirely absent, I guess. Or you can find somebody else that maybe can word it a different way. But the big book is very clear. You have to have entire abstinence, entire. Once you know the ingredients, that means entire.
Thanks so much, Jen. Thanks, Ruth. And next we have Mark. Hi, Mark.
Great. Thanks very much, Maria. Thanks for holding the meeting, and thanks, Ruth, for the absolutely fantastic talk that you gave. And I just, when you talk about entire abstinence, the first thing that my sponsor kind of got across to me was about entire honesty. And when it came to looking at them foods, I love exactly the way you describe it about that bingo button. When I just thought of the foods that were the things that caused me to react, my red foods, it was like every single food, I could name them at the drop of a hat, every single one of them that touches that little bingo button. And, I love it as well, the way that, it's a way I've never thought about thinking about it, about your food, that 99.99% just is not good enough. It has to be 100%. And for me, that's the way that I have to do it. And thank God I've been in recovery a while now. And my life, I've had troubles, but I've been able to get through all of them and haven't have to turn to food in any way, shape or form. And again, with the help of the higher power, the help of God, the help of my sponsor, you know, this fellowship is absolutely incredible, and thanks for taking time out of your day and spending it, you know, giving this absolutely fantastic talk. So I'd just like to thank you. So I'd leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Sue C.
Oh, hi there. And my name is Susan, and I'm a compulsive overeater. Ruth, I wanted to thank you for your share. The way you put it was really clear, and yeah, and I liked the black and white nature of it, abstinent or not abstinent. Like, to be honest, today is day one of abstinence for me. And so I did want to, it's a bit scary, but I did want to say hi to everyone. I have some time in a couple of other fellowships, and I know how to get well, but believing that this too could work for me, hearing you made me think, yeah, okay, you've done this before, you know what to do, just listen, be teachable, ask questions. I'm really scared. But thank you for going through it in such detail in the big book, because if it's worked for me in other areas, I know I just need to follow suggestions, and it's such a strong message that you have. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. One thing, Susan, I will say, you know, and I know the nature is, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But the point about the disease is you can't do it, and you'll never do it. And the book is always about surrendering. That means knowing that I can't do it, and then going to the surrender of where it can happen, that power through me, which is God, or you might want to call it, whatever you want to call it, Allah, God, Yahweh. It doesn't matter. It could be the four absolutes. Those were around at the beginning before there were steps. Whatever that is, the whole steps are about ego reduction, is what Dr. Harry Tiebold says, which his speech was given in A Comes of Age. And he talks about ego reduction, meaning ego reduction for sure. My big prideful ego says, well, I can control this. And no, I can't. So it's a surrender and an admission that I can't. And then in 2, okay, I've got to admit that I'm not God anymore. I never was, but I thought I could handle life, make everybody else do what I wanted. Oh, that was a joke. But I've got to accept that. And I've got to accept that now, if that's so, I do need now to move and make a conscious decision to move towards God. I've got to see what blocks me from getting that connection. I've got to now let somebody hear that. I've got to know what those defects are. They're glaring. I've got to be willing to let God have them. I got to see who I've harmed, and I got to go make amends. All these steps are a reduction of ego. It's letting go of the belief, the false belief that I can control outcome if I try hard enough. So it's not about doing something. It's about stopping what you're doing, because you can't do it anyway. You can't accomplish what you think you can do by doing it. It's actually getting more humble and saying, I can't do it, and I'll never do it. And okay, all right. If I really believe that, then maybe you, God, have to run the show now on each step. So if that helps, I hope so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue, and thanks, Ruth. And next we have Marianne from New York.
Hi, Marianne, compulsive overeater from New York. Thanks, Ruth. I can identify with the, you talked about when you first get abstinent, you go through withdrawal. And I struggle getting actually more than a day. Do you have any like tips of how to get through those first few days of not having the sugar and the sweeteners, and you know, just wondering about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is a physical component here, so it's not just mind. There's the physical allergy, and for that withdrawal, 2 to 3 weeks, it is the body that is screaming it, not just the mind. So for me, it's that I have, you know, what happens if I really surrender? It seems that God gives me all I need. People suddenly, I find a stranger that makes a comment as I don't know, walking down the street or something. I mean, it's like things fall into place. But the bottom line is you're going to have to not be going to restaurants. You know, don't go to the grocery store. Let somebody else go get your groceries. You know, if you're binging buddies, no, don't do that right now. Right now, you've got to hunker down, have a food plan that absolutely is entirely absent with no question. You know that. Don't make changes for the first 30 days. Just do this. Call it in, weigh and measure. All those things have to happen because you're like a fragile little kid. You can't live on your own. Don't expect the little kid to drive the school bus. That's not going to work. There's a school bus driver to do that, but that's not you. And so to accept your limitations, that you are powerless 100%, then you will reach out and get the support you need. And work with your sponsor to find out exactly what needs to happen. I don't know, go take a walk. Or I know a person who her husband going to work would drop her off, and she had to walk home to get home. So every day that's how she got her exercise in, because she had to go home. She had her keys and that's all she had on her. She did that every day when her husband went to go to work. So she got a little bit of movement in her body. So we find all kinds of ways. I can't give you specific. I mean, there's plenty of specific examples, and that's when you can cover behavior. But again, the person's so clogged up, so drunk on the food, they can barely hear me anyway when I talk to them at the beginning, which is okay because I know then they're entirely abstinent.
Thanks, Marianne. And we have a question in the chat box, Ruth, and it says, hello, can you please ask Ruth, how do you know if you're compulsively eating because you ate a trigger food, and in brackets, physical allergy, or if it's because of emotions, and in brackets, lack of fit spiritual condition?
Well, again, we start off with entire abstinence. You have to have entire abstinence. Work with somebody that's recovered. If you have entire abstinence, it's not physical. Once you get past the first 2 to 3 weeks of withdrawal and detox, that's the body screaming to you because it's gotten used to this toxic food that you're putting in it. After that, then it's something else. But if we try to decipher what it is, usually what we're trying to do is have control. Well, if I tell me this, then now I can know, and now I can get what I want. At this point in our life, we have to realize we don't have the ability anymore. We're gluttons. We are gluttons. My God, I didn't say at 7 years old, I'd like to grow up and be a glutton. I didn't say that, and I've not met anybody in OA that said that either. So we don't need to figure out. You know, people come into a meeting and say, I don't know why I ate. I want to know how I ate. You know why you want to know? Because so you can get control. You can eat the next time and still control outcome. That's what that game is, because if you really can surrender, you don't bother to ask. You just surrender and you don't even ask because you don't need to know. In fact, you maybe never know, and it doesn't matter. Just do what you got to do and you'll be absent just the same. So I just concentrate on the first task, entire abstinence. That will give you clarity that you will not have if you're drunk on food.
Thanks so much, Ruth. And next we have Judith.
Hi, this is Judith, recovering compulsive overeater. Thank you, Maria, for the meeting, and Ruth for your powerful share. I might be tripping into my own answer here, but I've been abstinent entirely for a little over a month now, working the steps quite thoroughly, God willing, and doing my part. One of my motivators is what you ended with, which was becoming neutral with my food. My food is clean, but I still have thoughts in my head about, you know, texting my food and making sure it's not my trigger foods and so forth and so on. In step 4, I'm finding a lot of emotional upheaval, and my mind is telling me, well, you may not be eating enough, and I've been able to sit quietly and say, let's see if this passes and what's going on. It's just feelings, and they don't have to push me back into the food. But I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or tools to help one get through the bumpy mental twist in terms of ultimately getting that great promise of neutrality. Maybe I shouldn't even worry about that and just stick with where I'm at, but I thought I'd ask it of you anyway. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, what the trajectory will be that overall this mental session will decrease. I'm getting a feedback. I don't know if, can you mute? Because I'm getting a feedback in. when I'm talking. Okay, that might be better now. Anyway, so what will happen is that mental obsession will decrease with each step. A little less mental obsession, a little less mental obsession. But it's going to be a river. It doesn't go straight line. It may meander. There might be days where it's a little harder than others. I found out 3 to 5 days before my period, those 48 hours, I was more angry, more fearful, more horny, more everything. And it's just my body. I didn't know that until I got abstinent. And I just knew that. Once I knew it, I go, oh, 2 days from now I'll be fine. So it was fine once I learned what was going on. And it wasn't me messing up. It was just that my emotional state was more jacked up during those 2 days. So the point that what I look for, and your sponsor can do this to help you because you're in it, but I look for 3 things about the mental obsession: frequency, intensity, and duration. Frequency, how often are you having those thoughts? Intensity, how deep are those thoughts? I mean, and how long do they last each time? Frequency, intensity, and duration. So I'm just keeping track. I don't necessarily have to tell my sponsor this. I'm just keeping track. And I'll ask, how's it going? How are the thoughts? And I'm listening. And if I hear that those thoughts are increasing in one or more of those 3 things, I pointed out what's going on. We might need to do maybe an extra meeting. What are the things you can do? But what I'm hearing overall is that intensity is decreasing with each step work. That's great. When you get to step 10, that mental obsession is gone. But it's not gone until then usually. So you're fine. If you have thoughts, as long as they're decreasing in those 3 ways, you are fine because they're going away. It's not a light switch for you. It will go away with each step, but each step will get just a certain amount of it away. It all won't go away at 1 second. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judith. Thanks, Ruth. We have another question in the chat box, Ruth, and it says, speaking to behaviors, for someone who compulsively exercises, what's your experience with refraining from compulsively exercising while you were first working the steps? A question, and then adding it in later question.
Yeah, if you're into compulsive exercising, which is a way to just get the food off so you can put more food in you, then it would be part of your plan with your sponsor. You will do whatever, something. It could be you might not be able to exercise, or you might have to definitely scale it back to what's a reasonable, healthy amount and see if that triggers you. But you have to work that out with your sponsor and what you can, if need to do. But you definitely need to talk with your sponsor that you are a compulsive exerciser, which is a way to burn up calories so you can eat more. And usually most people have a fear of getting fat. Well, no, you're not going to get fat. If you do entire abstinence and eat a basic nutrition, basic amounts at basic times, the body will now be allowed to do what it should do, which is go ahead and lose the weight the way it's supposed to lose it. And you're not going to interfere with that. And it will just do it on its own because you're not screwing it up with excess food. And it will go to the weight it should be, and it will stay at that weight within a 5-pound range, within 2 kilos. It will stay where it's that amount. I know because that's happened to me. If we get out of our weight, we don't have to worry about our weight. In fact, the last people that needs to know what we should weigh is us. Everybody else would have a better idea than us. So to pray to let go of this compulsion to exercise and talk to your sponsor about it. But it'll be part of the plan you'll have every day.
Thank you, Ruth. And next we'll go to Catherine.
Hi, my name is Catherine and I'm a compulsive overeater. Thank you for everybody that's doing service. Thank you, Maria. And also, Ruth, thank you so much for your share. It was just amazing to listen to you. I'm new to this program and my problem is sugar, absolutely highly addicted to sugar. But for me, what's happening now is the fear factor. I just cannot seem to let go of the sugar because I'm so afraid, and I get literally like panic, anxiousness just falls over me when I wake up in the morning. I think I can't go to the shop for a bar. There's going to be no bar in the fridge. There's no biscuits in the biscuit tin. How am I going to get through this day? And that's what my struggle is. Thank you.
Yes. So what will happen is the pain of eating hopefully will get greater than the pain of not eating, because there's a pain of not eating. You know, this is the most intimate relationship you probably have ever had in your life, more than with a spouse, more than children, more than a job or whatever, because it's the one you've had the most deepest contact with. Very unhealthy and destructive, but it's an intimate relationship. And you don't have anything to take its place. But there will be something that'll take its place, and it's called a higher power. But right now you don't even have that because you haven't completed step one. So you can just pray and pray. You can talk to people about it, go to listen to meetings, recordings, do some readings. But in the end, that's just actions to kind of soften you up. In the end, when you surrender, when that moment happens, it will be you and God. There will be nobody else that will make it happen. There will be there's nothing out there in the book. There's nothing being said on a poster. There's no person. It's you and God at the moment you surrender 100% when you take step one. And you're going to have to go and face that. So there's things that maybe will help you, but in the end, if you don't want to do it because you're scared, you won't do it. Or if you do it, it'll be partial, and the part that didn't surrender will still go and do the behavior. So, you can do all the actions, but in the end, there still has to be an admission 100%, which is a surrender once you admit 100%. That is the surrender.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks, Catherine. And another question in the chat box, Ruth. It says, my question is, what if we are working with someone who is desperate and binging but cannot identify any binge foods? They say they have problems with everything, including broccoli, and they are more of a volume binge eater, but they say there is no difference between cakes and vegetables. How can we help them?
Well, one of the things, and this is the disease, how tricky it is. Let's say an example in the U.S. is I'll just claim the baked potato. And you take your baked potato and you sprinkle some salt on it, and then you put some sour cream on it, and then you put some cheese on it, and oh my, you got an interesting baked potato. It's not the baked potato. It's what you're putting on or in your food. That's what you're chasing. You're not chasing steamed broccoli. You're chasing what you're putting on that broccoli is probably the problem. So when you look at it, it's not just the food item. Look at everything that goes in your mouth, everything. Even another one, I had a person that would go and buy gum, and she wouldn't buy a pack of gum. She'd buy a box of gum. Well, all gum has either got artificial sweeteners or sugar on it, all gum. And so she would chew it until that sweetness was gone, and then she'd put another stick in. She was doing this nonstop. And so she never ate the gum, but she swallowed the saliva, which was the trace amount of sugar. So you have to even count that. You don't even have to eat the stuff. So when you do this list, make sure you put down any and everything you're putting on your food, and you'll find that pretty well. Now we're talking about everything. Oh, okay. So, and then that's where you might find the ingredients that's the problem when it wasn't the actual, because she's not telling you what she's putting on or in the food. So I would start there with her and then get her to be more honest.
Thanks, Ruth. And next we have Noreen Kay. Noreen Kay.
Hello there. My name is Noreen, and I'm from New York and Florida. And Ruth, I heard you before on A Vision for You saying entire abstinence, and I was so taken with your talk. I was so excited to hear you talk today. You're just so straightforward and to the point. And it's like, I hear you and I want what you have. I'm in the program 45 years. I struggle with my weight. I think and I'm in and out. I never really left the program, but I'm not working the program. In the beginning, it was just a diet, no steps or anything. But now I know it's about the big book and the steps and doing service. And it's just a completely different program. I lost 23 pounds last year, and I decided to heck with it, and I gained it all back. And I'm saying, what kind of thick head am I? Now, I love to hear the Irish brogues in this program. My ancestry is from Kerry and Cork in Ireland, and it just warms my heart. But I'm trying to get back. Today is day one, and I'm trying to get back, but I struggle so much, and I just need a shot in the arm or a stick of dynamite to get me going. And any suggestions, I would very much like to hear from you, Ruth. Thank you.
Oh, pain is a great one. When the pain of eating is greater than the pain of not eating, maybe that will move you. There's no magic bullet. There's no saying one thing can say, the problem exists within you. It does not exist out of you. You can say food's the problem. That's out there. No, if food was the problem, everybody would be a compulsive eater on the planet, okay, because all people eat, right? So food's not the problem. The problem is what's going on inside of us. Inside of us. Our body is messed up. We've messed it up. And our mind is messed up. Both, we are powerless over both of these things. And so the solution will have to come from within. In fact, on page 25, it tells you what the solution is. And it says, our Creator enters into our heart in a way which is indeed miraculous. So for the solution, you're going to have to allow God to enter into your heart in a way which is miraculous. And at step one, you have to be willing to accept that you are not the answer. Nothing you can do will make it be the answer. The answer has to come from God, who lives deep down within you. Big Book says the reality is found deep down within it. It tells us where the solution is. It tells us where we got to go. And for whatever reason, the disease is so strong that you're not willing to accept that who you are. You're an addict. That's who you are. I mean, all the way 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much for the question. And next we have Tori T. I just want to make an announcement. We're on time. And are you okay, Ruth, to take a few more questions? Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
So we extend the meeting?
Fine.
Okay, thanks so much, Ruth. So next we have Tori.
Hi everyone, I'm Tori, compulsive overeater, bulimic. Gosh, Ruth, thanks a million. Your share and your experience, strength and hope was such a vision of hope and clarity, and I'm immensely grateful for your service. I've been in the program for about 15 years, in and out, and it just struck me, this entire abstinence thing that you spoke about. It struck me that I've never bought into that, and hence I've never had any prolonged period of abstinence. And it's also struck me that part of that resistance is my people pleasing. What do I say to people? At a birthday party when I'm offered a piece of cake, how do I respond? And so I just wondered if you had any ideas about putting down the people pleasing as well as the foods, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I think some of it is how you say no. If I say no and I'm really inside screaming yes, I think they'll probably hear the yes versus the no that comes out of my mouth, if you know what I mean, right? Yeah. So when I say no and I mean it and that's it, I usually never know. I mean, when I first said, you usually want it, because I really didn't want to be entirely absent. I got absent 12 days before Thanksgiving, this big pig out festival in the U.S., and I'm like, what was I thinking? Well, 12 days in, I'm sitting there like I'm screaming, but I said no. So they asked me again. But after a couple of years of that, they looked at, that's right, you don't do that. And they'd move on. So because I said no with certainty that this is who I am. The other, sometimes I'll make a joke. Somebody will say, hey, you want this? Say, nah, I'll break out in fat if I eat that. And they'll laugh because actually it is true, I would. So I sometimes crack a joke with somebody. And they think, and one person just laughed. She said, that's so funny, you'll break out in fat. I said, yeah, I know you didn't know me when I was, but I would. Okay, then. But whatever you need to do, the key is how you say no, not really saying no. That's what I found. People don't ask me a second time. They haven't done it for decades. I'm not mean about it. It's simply no, and it is a no. They don't need to waste their time asking me again, and they sense that, even if I don't say that in words. Don't ask me anymore. I don't need to. The other is don't put yourself in high-risk situations. If you're going around and talking to your binge buddies, those that were used to go to restaurants and overeat, don't hang out with them right now. It's nothing personal, but you gotta stay away from high temptations beyond your ability. When you're going through detox, you don't have. It's hard. It's hard just without all those additional stresses. So you may not just. Hey, I got a bunch of stuff. I won't, and whatever. You're not talking to, you're not really having a lot of contact for 2 or 3 weeks. They'll survive. So don't put yourself in situations at greater risk than God can allow you to work through you, because you don't have your connection with God is so small that that's a setup for failure.
Thanks, Ruth. And we've another question in the chat box. I'm currently entirely abstinent, but my sponsor does not like this approach to program and is more lenient with food. Would you suggest working with a different sponsor?
Well, can you talk with her and kind of work something out? Or even though I don't really know about this, but I'm willing to do it because I see you're doing fine. You're not obsessing even as much as you used to. Would she buy in? If she absolutely does not buy in and you need to have entire abstinence, then yes, you may need to find somebody else. I don't know, but could this person change your mind by having a conversation with her? Yes or no? And if it's no, maybe it needs to be somebody else. You will have to decide.
Thanks, Ruth. And next we have Donna.
Thanks very much for your share today. It was exactly what I needed to hear. I am a sugar addict. I've been white sugar abstinent for about 6 months. But after hearing this, I know I'm kind of white knuckling it, and I've been doing the sugar substitute. And so hearing your talk today has helped me a lot. So my question then is about fruit. With fruit having natural sugars, is that something that as a sugar addict, and you were saying our body doesn't need sugar ever, is that something I should steer away from? Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it depends. I sponsored 2 people that could not eat any fruit at all. They had binged on the fruit so much, even though it was naturally occurring within the fruit, they couldn't eat it. I've had others where, no, they can eat fruit. And I had one that could eat not just one fruit. There was one she couldn't eat, but she could eat other fruits. So that you would have to talk over with your sponsor. It's fructose is in fruit, lactose is in milk, for example. So it may be that you need to have even any kind of sweetness that's actually naturally occurring in those items and not eat those. Or maybe you can eat those as long as it's naturally occurring. So I don't know. That you will have to check it over with your sponsor. Most people don't have to abstain from all fruits. But again, I've had a couple that actually couldn't eat any fruits at all. So there's not one answer for everybody.
Thanks so much, Ruth. And next we have Dana.
Hi, my name is spelled D-A-N-A, but pronounced Donna. I am a recovered compulsive overeater and bulimic calling from Denver, Colorado. When I go through the doctor's opinion with my sponsees prior to reading together, I assign a few podcasts to them to listen to. And Ruth, I have to admit that when I assign the podcasts from the special editions that you've done, I always say, well, don't get scared. Ruth is a little intense, but we'll talk it through, you know? And I do that. I think I say that from my own, because of my own defects of character around Al-Anon and not wanting to scare away my sponsees and wanting to make it approachable and wanting to make myself approachable. But that spirit of like carries beyond just me warning them that Ruth is intense. So I find myself, for example, recently with a sponsee, we got to step 12 and she said she just didn't want a sponsor. And a sponsee who had initially said caffeine and artificial ingredient list, we got through the steps and then she said, actually, I want to start drinking caffeine and artificial sweeteners. I think I know what the quote unquote right answer is to do. And I do a lot of fear inventory and a lot of fear inventory and a lot of fear inventory until I have the courage to say the right thing. But I very much admire your commitment to your principles. And I wonder if there's something that you can teach me about being more like you. 300 inventories before I have the courage to speak my truth.
Well, I want to tell you, you don't want to be exactly like me. If you move into my home within 2 weeks, you would know that obviously is true. You should want to be all like me because I have defects just like everybody else. But it's a continuum, and on one part here we're not honest at all. Everything coming out of our mouth is, you know, either a mission, we're not saying we need to speak up, or we're just outright lying. And over here we're just brutally honest and attacking people, and that's not appropriate either, because we're not being sympathetic to where they come from. That doesn't mean you get to work the problem however you feel, but nevertheless try to see where they're at. And so all growth occurs right in the midpoint. That's it. Change growth is right in the midpoint, where you are honest, but you're not brutal in how you talk to the person. And so we each have to find how to say it. And different people are different. You know, some people, I have one that said, I just need, you know, I'm hard-headed. I just need you to work with me because I am hard-headed and I will just run over I had to sponsor and I just ran over her. So that's why I'm asking you to do it. And I said, great. And we worked out fine. And then others, you know, it's honest. But it doesn't, it's not like, well, all right, I'm just going to tell you. Well, I might, you know, I'll say it, but it won't necessarily have to be as short in saying the words, because the person needs to hear it a little bit, a bite at a time. But still, the truth always has to be told. So I don't know. Everybody has their personality, and I probably think that sounds like more of an Al-Anon issue. How do you keep your integrity while speaking truth to the other? That's what I try to always apply when I'm talking to somebody.
Thanks, Ruth. And the last question is from Therese. Hi, Therese.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for your service. My name is Therese. I'm from Norway, and I'm a compulsive overeater. And I am quite new to this program. I'm familiar with the 12 Steps program, but new to this program. So I was abstinent for over a year through another program, and something happened in my life. And I searched again for the food. And this was maybe in November last year. And since then, it's been difficult for me staying abstinent. So my question is, do you have any advice? What would be the most important thing for me now? You know, where should I start? Because I feel like starting every day. But I don't know what would be the most important thing to do now.
Well, we start in the order. So we have to start with step one. You have to have entire abstinence every day. The big book never says you can be drunk and just work these steps and it'll be fine. It's very clear, entire abstinence throughout the book. You need to be, in their case, sobriety, in fact, permanent sobriety. Because once you get out of detox, then you just work through the 9 steps, and 10, 11, 12, you just maintain them for the rest of your life. So I would say that I'll just give you a little story I made up to kind of reflect this. You work through each step, and each step gets you closer to God, and you keep getting closer to God. And in that connection, you don't turn away from God to betray that which gave you entire abstinence, which gave you this miraculous life of being connected with something greater that guides you and loves you and takes care of you, and you are able to pass that on to others. But it's a story that there was a man in a town, and he had this great catastrophe, a financial catastrophe. He went to the bank and threw a large sum of money. The townspeople said, what happened? This man is of very meager means. He has barely any money, and yet he's able to go to the bank and withdraw more than us, and we have more resources than him. What happened? Well, nobody noticed, but this man faithfully, every time he got money, he always put that certain percent of that money in the bank. And he was very disciplined, and he did it without fail year after year. And so when there was a huge catastrophe, he had more in the money in the bank than they did who had more, but because he had his discipline, he did what he needed to do. And so all of this in program, we have a spiritual bank. And in the spiritual bank, we're expected to make a deposit in our bank every day. No matter, without fail, it doesn't matter, we make that deposit in that bank. And so what happens, like all of us, we will have our catastrophes. We lose a job, somebody gets very sick in the family, whatever it may be. At that point, we require a massive withdrawal from our bank. But we will always have more than we need in the bank because we always put in every day without fail, perfect discipline. In this sense, we always put something in the bank. So how do people end up back after they've entirely abstinent and being recovered? Because they didn't put the deposits in the bank. Either they stopped at some point or they skipped a little and didn't put enough. We always will have more than we need to handle every crisis, because we put it in the bank. I've had moments when I had to go out and take a large withdrawal, but I never, ever even thought to eat compulsively because I always put my deposits in the bank. Prayer and meditation every day, step 10, work with others. And those deposits come in. So for long-term permanent abstinence, you must put deposits in the bank relative to where you are in your program. You have to put them in. There will always be enough. You will never go back to the food if you put those deposits in, because God will never set you up to fail. But he does set you up to succeed if you appropriately give God something every day in your deposits. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's fantastic. That's the end of our meeting. And just from all of us here, thank you so much, Ruth. And we've got so many messages for you in the chat box, just with gratitude and people thanking you. You know, we've all got so much from you here today. So thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
says you're welcome. God says you're welcome, because I couldn't pull this off unless God said it through me.
Oh, thank you. Well, God certainly spoke through you tonight, Ruth. So thank you. What a powerful message. Are there any OA announcements? I think anything that some flyers and that they've just been posted in the chat box, and some people are looking for the recordings. And just to let you know, the recording will be on YouTube. We'll have it posted by Wednesday, probably Wednesday evening, and you'll access it through OA BlackRock 1, and that's how you'll access the recording. And people have also posted links to some of the podcasts Ruth has given on Vision for You. So if you just look through the chat box, you'll be able to locate them as well. And I'd like to remind you of Tradition 7 that every OA group ought to be self-supporting, declining outside contributions. The money pays for rent and literature, and any excess funds will be donated to Intergroup. And we will post, there it goes, in the chat box for our 7th tradition. Tradition 12 states that anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all these traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Therefore, who you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, please let it stay here. And would Rebecca please read the promises for us? Thanks, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm a compulsive overeater. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. And we now close out the meeting by saying the Serenity Prayer. You all want to just unmute and we'll say the prayer together.
God,
grant me serenity that I cannot change, courage to change the things I can,
Wisdom to know
everyone. Thank you, Ruth.
Keep coming back, kids. We're worth it. We're worth it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Margaret.
Great
Thank
meeting.
you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Blessings, God. Thank you.
Hey, Maria, I didn't catch what the web thing was to get the recording. Can you give that to me again? Because I didn't have a pencil.
It's on YouTube, and it's on. Oh, it'll be on YouTube by Wednesday, Ruth, and it's OA BlackRock 1.
BlackRock 1. Okay, that's an interesting name. .com, .org.
No, you just find it under that.
Okay, BlackRock.
OA BlackRock the number 1. But I'll send you the link. As soon as I have it posted, I can email you.
Okay, yeah, just do that for me then. Okay, thanks.
I'll email.
That's great. All right, thank you, friend. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Everybody, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good night, Maria. Thank you.
Good night, Pat. God bless.
All right, bye-bye.
You going to hang back for a minute, Mark?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's no problem.
I think everybody's closing out.
Yeah. I've no friends, Maria. That's
people are kind of going out one by one. How many did we have at the? Oh, I'm going to stop the recording actually.